Hello students, welcome to Fun Friday. Fun Fridays are where we don't have anything specific that we have to do in terms of playing or anything like that. It's just something I want to share with you. Sometimes this will be history lessons or something cool about a particular brass instrument. And today I'm pulling something out of my toy box, which is this little thing here. That is called the Piccolo Trumpet. So we're going to talk about the Piccolo Trumpet today. I know a lot of you trumpet players have a lot of questions about the piccolo trumpet. All right, for our first part of this conversation, we've got the piccolo trumpet. What is it and how is it different from a trumpet? Well, you might already notice a few things just by looking at it. There's a few differences, but I'm going to bring up my normal trumpet, just like the one you've got here. Looks like a toy, doesn't it, compared to the... This is just like your trumpet here. This is a regular B flat trumpet, just like you play. And then this, right next to it, holy mackerel, look how tiny that is. This is called a piccolo trumpet. And you may have heard of this instrument. A lot of folks are very curious about it because they hear some things, some of which are true and some of which are not. So I'm going to try and guide you through what I think is true and interesting and fun about this instrument, and definitely some things that are false about it. So stay tuned. Alrighty, so step one, that's what makes the piccolo trumpet different from our regular trumpet. It's smaller, so therefore it's much higher. And in fact, it's one octave higher. And an octave is that distance from, say, our low C to our C that's in the staff. So on my big trumpet, I'm calling it my big trumpet today. This is the B flat trumpet. I'm playing a low C just like we all know. And then I can play the higher C, right? So the piccolo trumpet sounds one octave higher than the B flat trumpet. So my low C on this little toy trumpet, my little piccolo, is that high C. And those of you who know how to play C, D, E, I'm going to play that on this little guy, but it's going to sound much higher. So that's my low C, believe it or not, on this little guy. That high sounding note is a low C. So that's the primary difference. Other than that, there's a lot of things that you already know that apply to this instrument. So for example, if you know your C scale, you can play the C scale, but boy is it hard because it is super high. So I'm going to go through this kind of slow. Maybe I'll switch the directions here so you can see my fingers better. I'm going to play that C scale that you may already know. Maybe you just know the first 5 notes, but if you know all of them, I'm playing that scale, but it sounds really high. Alright, so that's what the C scale, the normal C scale, sounds like on this little piccolo trumpet. So I'm going to show you some other little nifty doodads that go along with this in just a moment. Stay tuned. Okay, so the main question people ask is, oh, I can play higher on the piccolo trumpet. I can play all the same stuff and I can just play it an octave higher on the piccolo. And that's not exactly how it works. What happens is the fingerings all change. So, like I said, that low C is here, but that D that sounds high on our big trumpet, that high D is fingered just like the low D, right? Like that on the piccolo. And you might think that that makes it easier to play, but it really doesn't. You can't really play any higher on the piccolo than you can on the regular trumpet. And I'm going to demonstrate that for you now. I'm going to play some super high notes on the big B flat trumpet. I'm going to play a high C, I'll play a regular C and then the really, really high one. So that really, really high C, I'm going to keep going and we're just going to see how high I can play. We all have limits. We're going to see how high I can play today. Don't know what it's going to sound like. So that was almost a G that I got from the big normal B flat trumpet, just like the one that you have. Let's see what I can do on the piccolo trumpet. Now the fingerings are different, but it's just as high and just as hard to play. It's just that the fingerings are a little easier. So I'm going to try going up that really, really high scale. See what we get here. So I just barely got that G. That's a really screamy high note. And you know what? It's just as hard on this thing as it is on this thing. It's not going to let you play any higher than you already can. So what's the point? Stay tuned. We'll talk about that. Alright, so yeah, the obvious question, what is the point? Why would we even bother with this little thing when we can't play any higher? Well, when we look at notes like that C in the staff and above, on the big B flat trumpet, we're playing C, E, and G. So there's 3 notes with the same fingering, with the open fingering. Watch me. Now on this instrument, this little piccolo, I only have the 2 notes I can play open. I can play the low C and I can play that high G, but I can't play the E. I'll even try it for you. I'll play C and G and then I'll try to play that E. It's not going to come out if I play it open. I can almost play it. Doesn't sound very good, does it? Well, what does this do for us? It makes those high notes not easier to play exactly, but more secure. If I try to pop out, let's call it a really high C here. I'm going to pop it out on this instrument. I might get it, but I might crack. Let's see what happens. Oh, I hit the wrong one. That was a D. Let's try a C. So that C I missed because the notes get really close together on the big B flat trumpet. I should be able to pop it out a little easier with this. Why? Because the nearest note from there is G or the really high E. Right? So this gives me some security that I don't get on the great big trumpet. Now let's talk about, you might have also have noticed there's 1, 2, 3, 4 valves. We'll talk about that next. Alright, so we don't make this video too super long. I just want to talk about why this is here, this little 4th valve. And in fact, a lot of trumpet players, like myself included, we played like normal, 1, 2, 3, and you might think I'd use my pinky here, but I actually use my index finger, like that. So 1, 2, 3, and then I use my index finger. Well, what does this valve do? Well, if many of you know that this low D is really out of tune, and if we play it 4th valve on the piccolo trumpet, it's a little bit better in tune. Now, the piccolo trumpet is very hard to play in tune in general, so it doesn't help a whole lot, but it does help a little, and a little goes a long way on a tiny trumpet. So I'm going to play C, D, and E, this just like that, and that D is a little out of tune, just like it is on our big trumpet. So I don't know if you could hear that, but that D is a little sharp, and this, that 4th valve, replaces this fingering and makes it a little bit better in tune. I don't know if you could hear that, but it's a little bit better, isn't it, when I play the 4th valve. So that's one thing the 4th valve does. It helps us with intonation or tuning on certain notes. It also allows us to play much lower than we can on the big trumpet. So on the big trumpet, our lowest note is that F sharp. Right? We have C, B, B flat, A flat, G, F sharp, and that's really as low as we can go. Well, guess what? On this one, I've got more tubing because I have a fourth valve. So if I play, now remember my C is up high, right? So I'm playing that fingering, which I went through the order of fingerings that we're familiar with. Well, this fourth valve replaces 1 and 3. And that, if you know, that's a low G when you play it that way. I'm going to hold that down for a low G. And guess what? I have all of these available again. So I have G, F sharp, F. Now these are low on the piccolo trumpet, but technically these are not notes that are available to us on the big trumpet. And if you're really skilled, I'll see if I can get it. You can get that really, really low C. Kind of hard to do. Oh, mine did not come out well at all. Let's hear the high C. Low C. Yeah, you can't even play that note hardly on this little piccolo. Now there are different kinds of piccolos. Mine is what's called a short model. It means all the tubing is really squished together and quite short. In some of them, this bell comes out from here, and it's a little bit longer of an instrument. There's quite a variety of these around. Now, should you go get yourself a piccolo trumpet? Probably not. I love my little piccolo, but I very, very rarely you get a chance to use it. Most music doesn't call for it, and those that do, it's only a few measures out of, an hour's worth of music. I may have 4 to 16 measures or something to play on the piccolo. So not really a worthwhile investment unless you're professional, but certainly fun and interesting. So this is our Fun Friday, our first one. We did the piccolo trumpet, talked about it a little bit. If you're a subscriber to the extended services, if you have a question about piccolo trumpet, or if you've heard about it and you want to know more, there's a bunch of stuff I didn't talk about. Let's talk about that on Friday. And if you're happy with what you saw and that was interesting, we'll do some practice, supervised practice. I'll help you practice through some stuff for our regular lesson time. I'm also going to add some interesting piccolo trumpet history down in the description for you. So I hope you enjoyed our little Fun Friday on the little, I call it the toy trumpet sometimes. It's definitely not a toy, because boy, oh boy, is this hard to play. But I hope you enjoyed my little discussion on the piccolo trumpet. All right, bye guys.